This live roundup episode is brought to you by Vonk, the recruitment advertising platform trusted by over 150 global enterprises and staffing agencies, including Adecco, PwC, and Software One. Vonk helps employers connect with top talent through AI-powered job distribution, deep ATS integrations, and recruitment intelligence that drives smarter, faster hiring decisions. And right now, they're taking things to the next level. Vonk is about to unveil something big, powered by AI, built to bring speed, empathy, and intelligence back to the experience. So stay tuned, a new era of hiring is about to begin. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, sign up and subscribe to their mailing list at www.vonk.com. And Vonk is spelled VONQ. So www.vonk.com, and you can be the first to find out more.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Recruiting Future Roundup. Once more, coming to you live, streaming live, and this is a roundup of the October episodes that published on Recruiting Future. If you've not watched Roundup before or listened to Roundup before, what happens is we go through all the episodes that are published and really pick out the key points. So you can decide whether you want to kind of dig back in, re-listen to an episode, listen to it for the first time, and really kind of see what's happening on the podcast. Now, this is the third time that we have done this live. I was joined by Mervyn last month, and this month I'm delighted to welcome Rhona back to Roundup Live. Hi, Rhona. How are you doing?
Hi, I am doing good and excited to do this again. I really love doing the roundup, so I'm excited you asked me back again.
It's brilliant to have you back. For people for the few people who may have not encountered you and your amazing work, just give us a quick introduction to what you do.
Yes, so I am the founder and creative director at Workfluencer Media, and I also host the Workfluencer podcast, where I talk to creators and professionals who just create content, write books, speak on stages, and anyone who talks about work and the future of work. That's who I feature on the Workfluencer podcast every week.
Fantastic. And we also work together on the All Day Hour, which is live on LinkedIn every Monday lunchtime, afternoon, evening, depending on where in the world that you are. So that'll be on next Monday. So make sure you tune back in. Anyway, let's stick to Roundup for now. So 8 episodes that we're looking at during October. October was a pretty busy month. There was conferences everywhere, huge amount of sort of product announcements and things moving the industry forward. We had a kind of selection of topics across the podcast. There were some common themes. AI, obviously, is the common theme. I've not managed to do an interview now for about 12 months without AI coming up. Even in one that I tried to do on purpose that wasn't about AI, it ended up being about AI. So obviously, AI is still a strong theme. So let's kick off by going back to episode 734, which was called Why Skills Really Matter. And it's an interview with a chap called Craig Freeman, who is the Talent Skills Transformation Leader at St. Charles Consulting, and also author of a book called Enterprise Skills Unlocked. Really interesting conversation, this one. Deep dive into skills-based hiring, how it works, and lots of really interesting points about everything around intermobility, diversity, resilience. I know this was an episode that particularly spoke to you, Rhona, wasn't it? To give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I really liked this episode. Some people hate the skills-based hiring that we're talking about. Some people like it. I'm really in the middle, and I really liked Craig's approach about talking about how you can use it internally within your organization. I come from the talent marketplace industry. That's what I did when I was working in TA. So I absolutely love using these skills and not just using it externally, right, when you're serving clients, but internally in your company. If you adopt this methodology, I guess I'll call it, of seeing skills and evaluating people's skills and identifying the skills needed for the task within your company, you can create kind of like a talent marketplace itself. And that way, oh, I need someone for this project. These are the skills needed for this project. These are the skills that my people have, and you can do that skills matching. I loved this episode.
Yeah, and we know that it's something that companies look at very seriously. Some companies struggle with. There's just been so much narrative around this. It feels like we've been talking about it forever. But I think that Craig kind of really hits some of the key points around the business value for this. So particularly competitive advantage, when skills are going out of date so quickly, the ability to be able to, map and redeploy people, as the business change is going to be a key differentiation between companies, particularly if we're going through a time where companies are hiring less people or have smaller budgets for hiring. That ability to move people around is going to be huge. So really recommend listening to this one because it's just it covers a lot of ground that we covered before on the podcast, but it really kind of zooms in on the differentiating factors of doing this right. Next up was episode 735, one of a couple that are about recruitment marketing last month. And this was an interview with a very good friend of mine, James Whitlock from Thinking Circles. Now, I've been on his podcast about 4 times and I hadn't actually realized I had never invited him on mine, or I think I had, but we'd never been able to make it work before. So, I was delighted to finally have a conversation with him. He is very much focused on recruitment marketing. He runs an agency that helps recruitment agencies, but also employers, really understand what's going on in recruitment marketing and really sort of get their message across. And the thing that James does brilliantly is he's great on technology. So in this episode, we're really talking about how AI is disrupting recruitment marketing. Now, some of that is from a process perspective. So, the ability to actually produce marketing quicker and do some really, really cool things. And we sort of go into all of the details around the skills that are sort of changing, in terms of what marketers need. Now, recruitment marketing is obviously something that, again, is a big topic for you, Rhona. What did you think of this one?
Loved this episode. Loved his approach. Like, yes, AI is out there. This is how you can use it, because let's not try to say that we're not going to use it and that it's not going to make any changes in recruitment marketing. It absolutely will, with efficiencies for sure. But I liked how he really stressed on modern marketers should really focus on community and brand storytelling. And I might be a little biased because this is what I do day in and day out, but I truly 100% believe in it, just like James does. Like, yes, AI is going to help us do so much more with recruitment marketing, but at the end of the day, there's still some parts where a human needs to be involved because AI really lacks originality. It feeds off of itself. This is something that James was talking about during the episode. So yes, community and brand storytelling are really going to be how you're going to differentiate in recruitment marketing moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that is just the absolute key point here, because I think when everyone has access to, pretty much everyone has access to the same tools, and we all already kind of see that it means that all marketing sort of looks the same. And I think you've just got to really take a step back and think about how do we differentiate ourselves, putting humans in this, human stories in the middle of it, is obviously a big part of that, human creativity, and even just, the formats that you use to do that, longer form formats, things that AI can't replicate in quite the same way. Well, that is a movable target because, we were, just looking at some of the AI video that's out there now. It's it's kind of scarily lifelike. But I think that kind of message is a really strong one. It's something that I'm going to be sort of talking about a lot more, as we move forward in terms of how you keep that human in marketing, but also get all the efficiencies that come around it. So yeah, that was it was a really, really, really interesting conversation, and it leads very nicely into the next episode, which we've actually already spoken about this episode on the Alder Hour a couple of weeks ago, but certainly worth revisiting. And this was a great conversation. I absolutely loved having this conversation. So I was in 736. It's called Trust, Influence, and the Future of Recruitment Marketing. So very much picking up on the themes of the previous episode. I was talking to Tracy Parsons from Flockety and JT O'Donnell, founder of Work It Daily, a bit of a LinkedIn career legend in terms of what she talks about and what she does. And it was a great conversation. I mean, the essence of it was looking at recruitment marketing very much from a job seeker's perspective, really highlighting that essentially trust in job boards has been blown. No one even knows whether they're looking at a job that's live or a job that exists anymore. And looking at kind of other ways of getting messages across. And really, in this interview, we were talking about applying influencer marketing to recruitment marketing. So with the TikTokification of algorithms out there, which is what's happening to LinkedIn as well. So basically, social media delivering content to people based on their interests, not based on their connections. It's a different way of kind of thinking about stuff. And what Flockety are doing in partnership with JT is this this kind of fantastic sort of influencer outreach where they're putting recruitment marketing messages into the hands of influencers who actually do those jobs and speak directly to those communities, to really kind of build up the trust and to rebuild the trust and authenticity in recruitment marketing. And I thought it was just a fascinating conversation and something I can see being very important in the future. What do you think?
I absolutely love Tracy and what they're doing at Flockety. I haven't met JT, but I absolutely love as well what she's doing at Work It Daily and Pro Voice. And I mean, this is the entire premise of my podcast. Yes. The creator economy is really how we solve recruiting's trust problem. It's how consumer marketing has been doing it using influencers since years and years ago. And it's high time that we catch up to it as recruitment marketers. So 100% loved this episode and everything that they shared. I absolutely love really Flockety's approach as far as not controlling what the influencer says, because at the end of the day, the reason why this influencer has influence is because the people that follow them trust them. So when you take that premise and then have them talk about jobs that are open, people are going to immediately trust it. I also loved how they talked about in this day and age with all of the AI and everything that's happening, people are really wanting jobs to come to them. And this is how you get your job in front of people that are qualified, because you talk to creators of all sizes, which is what they use to talk about these real jobs. And then people know that their influencer that they follow isn't going to steer them wrong in some ghost job or things like that. So absolutely love what they're doing. 100% believe this is the future of how we are going to find jobs.
Yeah, and I'd say to everyone watching, because looking at sort of the demographics of the people who listen to and watch the podcast, and the demographics of things like TikTok, there's kind of a little bit of a mismatch. So there may be people who've not come across the kind of the career content that is on channels like TikTok, and it is just full of people talking about their jobs, doing and not from a not trying to make money, but just to try and sort of get their kind of build a bit of engagement and educate people about what it's like to do particular jobs. So I've seen stage managers, people who work on oil rigs, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of content out there, just giving people an insight into what they do all day, how they got that job, and it's kind of a real thing. And I think it's something that employers should 1,000,000% be aware of and think about how they can partner with it, because it is trusted content.
Yes, it
100%. Okay, so shifting gears slightly, 737, which is called Building a Team of Talent Partners. Now, This was an interview with Jeff Soto, who is the Vice President of Talent Acquisition Americas at Sony Music Entertainment. And it was a really interesting conversation because you get a lot of content out there about the future of TA. Is TA becoming, talent partners, talent advisors, all of this sort of stuff. And you get a lot of that in a conceptual form, but you don't get much about what does that look like and how does it work? And what Jeff's talking about here is how he really has evolved and coached his team to have a coaching mindset. So it does a deep dive into how they talk to, hiring managers within their business, how there's a methodology in there for building a coaching mindset. So not just saying you're an advisor and turning up and either passively taking a brief or aggressively telling someone what to do. It's a real sense of, how you can strategically coach in a conversation and how you can learn how to do that from, someone who's running a team who are just doing exactly that. So, really, really, valuable interview. What did you make of this one?
This was a great interview as well. And like you said, everyone talks about it. It's like, oh, let's be advisors. I love Jeff's approach of yes, advising doesn't necessarily mean you're just telling people what to do. You're truly partnering, you're coaching, and you're influencing. I think TA people, we are the ultimate influence without authority in an organization, and just learning how to do that the right way is how teams will win. And again, we've been talking about this for years. We need to stop order taking and we need to be strategic, all of that. Great. How do we do this? And that's why I love this episode, because it was a real example of how he did it, and he shared a lot. It's really one that you must listen to.
Yeah, and lots in there about data and storytelling. I think my favorite bit was talking about how to be challenging without friction. I thought it was a great sort of excerpt from the coaching kind of playbook that they're using. So yes, definitely listen to that one. Next one, first overtly AI, explicitly AI episode. So episode 738, how to implement AI successfully in HR and TA. Love this conversation. It's with a guy called Taylor Bradley, who works for a company called Turing. And Turing are kind of one of these companies that sort of provide, infrastructure and insights for the companies building LLMs. So there's a whole kind of economy out there of sort of various different AI companies that are sort of working together to build the tools that we just use and don't perhaps have much of an insight into what goes on. And the great thing about this is he's talking about implementing AI strategically into HR, which is something that he's done. So it's coming from, this has actually happened, his kind of experience. We really started the interview based on the research that came out recently about AI pilot projects failing, that companies were putting pilots in, they weren't working. AI was getting the blame. And really the way that he kind of couched this is these are human change management failures. They're not technology failures. And that's what we really looked at in terms of everything that we talked about in this interview. So, this is all about change management, not about engineering, and talking about how that change management happens when you're strategically putting AI into a function like HR and TA. I mean, any kind of standout bits for you in this?
Love this approach. Absolutely. Most projects in the world that have failed, and we know this, most initiatives have been change management failures, and that applies to AI as well. I love that that's how you started. I think anyone in HR, actually anyone in leadership across any type of role, needs to understand that when you're implementing something new and something as transformational as AI, what you're really doing is leading transformational change within your organization. More than thinking about the technology, you need to be thinking about how you're going to get adoption from the humans using this technology or impacted by the technology. I loved his approach of like, okay, we're going to implement AI. We're going to do this. Let's start with like choosing specific things. Don't go all in, all AI. And I like the question where he asked, what happens if we get this if automation gets this wrong?
Yep.
As like, should we automate this? Should humans be in it? Should it be a mix? Start by thinking, what happens if AI gets this wrong,
What's
and
the
then
worst
go from
that could
there.
happen, and build from there. Yeah, I thought that was great as well. And I think the other interesting thing about this was talking about just the human impact of this. So the fact that there are people who are concerned about their roles, or they're people who they were an HR business partner, they're now an AI engineer with HR expertise. It's just kind of like big shifts for people in their jobs. And he kind of really addresses that and the psychological safety around it, and helping people with job insecurity, enabling learning, and all those kind of things that sort of get missed when we're looking at these type of projects, but actually are completely essential for them to work. So loved having this conversation. Great to talk to someone who's actually implemented this, learned the lessons, but also works in an AI company, so has all of the context of what AI can and can't do. So it was a great conversation. Next one, 739, TA's challenges and priorities for 2026. This has become almost a bit of an annual tradition. So Fosway Group, who are a European HR technology analyst company, every year Sven, who is their lead analyst, they do a piece of research into what talent acquisition's priorities are for the coming year. Now, this is European focused, but I think it probably applies to many countries in the globe. There isn't anything that really stood out to me as being specifically European. So we were looking at what are the priorities, what are the budgets, and all those kind of things, and really sort of what's kind of come out of their research with the TA leaders that they've spoken to. Quality of hire continues to be a big focus, and it was the biggest focus last year. I don't think that's really surprising, because if we look at what's going on, getting quality over quantity is really a key priority for most employers. But also efficiency was a big part, and efficiency, that's the posh way of saying do more with less, which seems to be the mantra every year in TA, but particularly at the moment, there was a sense that there was constriction on budgets for next year, but not necessarily as big as we might imagine, and there was still budgets for technology transformations and those kind of things. Anything kind of stand out to you in this one?
I think really it was a great episode. I like how he laid everything out. Nothing surprising to me specifically, but again, all I do every week is talk about these things and research these things. But I 100% agree with where we're going. This is the reality of where we are. Budgets are smaller. Hiring is changing. Efficiency is still important. Teams are smaller. I liked, yes, TA is really the most advanced HR function when it comes to AI adoption. I don't think that was by choice. I think that's because the HR tech vendors and really everyone I think TA is what they understand the most. So that's where they went first as far as implementing AI. But even though we are the ones that are the most advanced, we're still not 100% prepared. People understand its potential, but people are still piloting use cases and seeing where we go. So it's interesting where we're headed. It's good that we have this that we're the first function or that's been using it the most, but there's still a ways to go.
Yeah, and I mean, Sven made a really interesting point on this, which is at the moment, the priority with AI is about efficiency. So people are trying to use it to be more efficient. And actually, eventually you have to use it strategically, and that is a completely different ballgame, as we saw in the previous interview. So there's a kind of a real sense that yes, there are, TA teams and employers are embracing AI to a certain extent, but they're only scratching the surface of what it's going to be like. And I think I would hope that in 12 months' time, if we're kind of sort of talking about this again, we would have shifted away from that into actually where is this transformation really taking us beyond, just being a bit better at scheduling interviews and those kind of things. So huge amount of work still to come on this. And also there's a lot in there about upskilling TA. TA has this opportunity to be a center for workforce intelligence and strategic influence, but it kind of needs to take it before that window closes and someone else does. So it just sets up another interesting 12 months in what we do. Okay, so next one, 740. Are we really ready for AI? So these three kind of really run really well together, actually, as conversations. So this is an interview with a futurist, a guy called Michael Chong, who runs a company called the Uber Trends Academy. And he looks for trends that give us a clue about where we're going. We talked about the AI, this kind of AI revolution, and we compared it to the internet, the electricity revolution, which neither of us were alive for, but the electricity revolution, the internet revolution, the social media revolution, the mobile revolution, the data revolution. And just in terms of what's different about it, and what's different about it is AI actually learns from being implemented. And that compounds, and it's happening a lot quicker. We went into the split between AI and humans and how that might develop and how that's a big thing for the workplace. But really, the crux of this interview for me was how important it is for organizations to look at and spot trends, to have that foresight, to have that signal detection and say, do you know what? This is where it's going, and we need to go in that direction and get ahead of the curve, basically. And then there was a bigger bit in there about actually the implications for jobs and governments and education are vast here, and governments need to do the same thing. Do you agree? Do you think this is a big foresight situation?
Yes, I do agree, and I loved companies need to have a 5 to 10 year plan with AI. It's not like, okay, let's test. It's like, it's here. Let's do something about this. Let's start thinking long term how we're going to use this, what this means, because the implications are like, they're already here and it's a lot. So yes, I definitely agree. AI is here to stay.
No, absolutely. It was it's a fairly kind of straightforward conversation. I think it was, I think this just that foresight is just such a big thing. And I think people need to take some time to kind of look out of the day to day and the planning for the next year, and really kind of look at the horizon and think about not just where their company's going, but also where they want their career to go as well. I just think it's incredibly, incredibly important. So the final episode in October was 741, the competitive advantage of neuro-inclusion. Now, Rhona, neuro-inclusion is a topic dear to my heart, so I love having these conversations. But I have to say, I probably have something around neuro-inclusion every sort of 7 or 8 weeks or so, and this has been one of my favorite ever conversations on it, because it was just so insightful, but just so practical and so normal. So interview with Pamela Kavanagh, who is the Chief People Officer at a company called Exogen. And we were talking about the strategies, the neuro-inclusion strategies that they've put in place. Now, they're quite a small company. They're an engineering business, and they really over-index in terms of the amount of neurodivergent people that they have they have in their workforce. So I think that there are lots of lessons that companies can learn from this. And the key part of it is just sort of normalizing everything. So we talk a lot about making reasonable accommodations for anyone who needs reasonable accommodations to be made for them, and some of those are legally necessary. But what I loved about what this company has done is they've just kind of normalized that, and they've said actually a lot of the time the accommodations that we make for neurodivergent people help everyone. So let's make them options that are available for everyone. So things like, fidget toys or noise cancelling headphones, they just kind of bought a load of them and had them there for anyone who wanted them. And rather than call these things reasonable adjustments, they call them performance enhancers, which I just love this. It was just, so many practical steps, really focusing on, things like clear communication, psychological safety, again, stuff that benefits everyone in the workforce. And I thought that it was just great in terms of just, how normal kind of everything was. And also she makes an incredibly strong business case for doing this as well, in terms of really unlocking the creativity and innovation that her company needs by having a real kind of diversity of thought within the business. And then, we looked at the other side of it as well. We looked at, well, what isn't a reasonable adjustment, and actually, being very, very clear about what you can't necessarily do as an employer is also equally important, so people can make a decision. So yeah, I'm raving about this because it was a great conversation. But what did you think?
It really was a great conversation. It opened my eyes a lot. I loved her reframing of reasonable accommodations to like performance enhancers, because it's true. We've spoken about this. We know that there's all in your organization, whether you know it or not, there are neurodivergent people. And also these accommodations, quote unquote, are really beneficial to everyone. So I loved that reframe, and I'm going to actively stop calling them reasonable accommodations and start performance enhancers, because it's true. That's really what they are. They benefit everyone. And I also love the balance and like, okay, yeah, these are things that we can do, but these are things that we absolutely can't do because as an organization, we can't. I love that. I also love the call out of us like, look, if you've met one autistic person, you've only met one autistic person. Don't just like we can't generalize about everyone else. We can't generalize about every neurodivergent person because they're people. They're different. So these accommodations are, again, seeing it through the lens of enhancing the performance of your team, of your team members, as opposed to going out of your way and making an accommodation. I think it's really eye-opening and really, really great way of reframing and seeing things.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one that everyone should listen to. So that was the 8 interviews that I did during October. We're already into November. There's already a couple live. There's some really, really interesting content coming up. So make sure you tune in and listen to Recruiting Future wherever you listen to your podcasts, and don't miss out. Rhona, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream, this roundup live stream. Be back in a month's time with another roundup, but make sure you listen to all the episodes in the meantime. And please catch us on the Order Hour every Monday. Rhona, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
This is my show.